Houston has been brought to a near standstill this afternoon as torrential rains from Tropical Storm Francis have flooded streets and forced schools and businesses to close. Francis has been battering parts of Texas with high winds and heavy rain since the storm came ashore overnight near Port O'Connor. Hello and welcome to Weather Center. I'm Janetta Jones. Severe coastal flooding and flash flooding caused by Francis is occurring in parts of both Texas and Louisiana. In addition, tornadoes and high winds caused by Francis have killed one person and injured 6 others in Louisiana. We've got the details on the storm. Here's Jill Brown in our forecast center.
Okay, thanks, Janetta. Yes, a lot to cover with Tropical Storm Francis. It's made landfall, but the effects from this one may last for quite a while longer. And joining me to discuss this is Dr. Steve Lyons, our hurricane expert here at the Weather Channel. Dr. Lyons, we just took a glimpse there at the latest stats on this one. It came in with 65-mile-per-hour winds. It's certainly been nice to see the winds have gone down.
Yeah, right now I think the pressure continues to rise near the center of the circulation, so I don't think we're going to see much in the way of strong winds anymore. The only problem we have left now is the coastal flooding and, of course, the flooding from rainfall and what's already happened. Most of this, the worst stuff is over, but it could be exacerbated by some more rain and that later this afternoon.
And the one thing that we were just talking about, and I don't want to harp on the dangers of snakes here, but we see those people wading through that water, and just the mere thought of that there could be snakes or other things in the water makes you want to tell them to not do that.
That's right. Those bayous oftentimes have water moccasins, and they are washed out in floods like this. So be careful if you're out there. It could be very dangerous.
I'm sure for some people that there's no other choice. You need to get out of the flood waters. Sometimes you have to cross them to get to higher ground. Well, let's talk about the stats on this one. Again, 40-mile-per-hour winds. That's come down from 65-mile-per-hour winds when this made landfall during the overnight hours. Let's talk more about this motion west-northwest at 8 miles per hour. When you look at the satellite picture, even this alone, you can see that if it's moving, it sure is very slowly.
That's right. It's the circulation center still remains very close to Corpus Christi here. You can see the clouds spinning around in the low levels here. It's roughly in here, and it really hasn't gone too much. The mid-level center is starting to move northwest, but the low-level center just hanging back, which is bad news. The general trend should be toward the northwest, but we really haven't seen much movement in the last 6 hours. The Hurricane Center's forecast is to the northwest. We hope it happens, but we haven't seen it yet. The sooner it happens, the less likely the heavy rain is going to persist along the coast where all the flooding has already occurred.
Alrighty, so we do have a threat of severe weather. We haven't seen a lot of this. We did have one tornado warning, no confirmation in the last hour. That was in Jefferson Davis Parish in southwestern Louisiana, right in here. And the latest information we've had from the Storm Prediction Center is that it's about this area, Houston over toward Lafayette, with the biggest concern for tornadoes. Also along the coast, the strong winds. As you mentioned, the winds probably not as big a deal anymore.
That's right. Out over the water they are for mariners, but at the coast, the only time you're going to get real strong and potentially damaging winds is in association with any thunderstorms that come by, heavy rain. There's still some pretty good bands of heavy rain there. When they come on shore, they come inland, they're going to mix down those faster winds from above the surface down to the ground, and you could get some trees down and things like that.
Okay, and of course our biggest threat with the landfalling tropical storm, typically the flooding, and that is the case today. Coastal flood warnings, where the winds are coming right toward the coast here. We do have the possibility of coastal flooding from the Texas-Louisiana border to Waveland, Mississippi, but really the biggest thing has been this rain. And from this Doppler estimate, it looks like we've had maybe 6 inches, but in reality we've had reports of maybe up to 10 inches of rain.
10 inches and even more than that in some locations. And some of them, of course, estimates from other Doppler radars. So the rain has been prolific, and of course that in combination with that coastal flooding doesn't let the water drain out, so it just sits there in pools. So oftentimes when it gets in low-lying areas, it can't get out, then it has to be pumped out.
And that certainly could be the case around New Orleans or another area that we've seen some very heavy rain. Doppler estimates here look like they're upwards of 8 to maybe 10 inches of rain. Of course, it continues to rain here, and the heaviest rain is well north of where the center of circulation is, which leads us to the question, does it matter where the center of circulation is on this?
Not at all. As a matter of fact, the center of circulation is relatively void of rainfall right now. Most all of the stronger winds and the heavier rain are north and east of the circulation, which is roughly in this general area and is forecast to move toward the northwest. So Lake Charles area, they continue to get hit by some pretty heavy rains, and they're under some pretty heavy flooding situations there too, right on the coast.
Okay, just a touch of good news right around the Houston area where you saw the aerials of the extreme flooding. At least the rain is not falling at this time. And again, over the next 12 to 24 hours, Steve, I guess we'll just wait for this to gradually weaken.
That's right, gradually weaken. The rain should gradually subside and also along the coast and also move generally toward the north where it's needed more.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Steve Lyons, our hurricane expert. We'll keep you up to date on the latest on Tropical Storm Francis if you'd like to get more information on that or weather elsewhere across the nation or around the world. Weather.com is the spot. In the meantime, let's take you back to the studio. Janetta Jones is standing by to tell you about the rest of the country's weather and look at the forecast for the weekend.
All right, thanks a lot, Jill. We are looking at some pretty decent weather in other locations across the country. Let's talk about the rest of the east, where high pressure is in control. Looking great here from New York City and Philadelphia on into Washington, D.C. and Atlanta, Georgia, and actually as far south as Florida, things are looking real good thanks to that big blue H. Unfortunately, this is our big trouble spot. And then we have our other frontal boundary that's cutting across Minnesota and straggling on back into Nevada. Showers and thunder showers will be evident across the southwest this afternoon. We're going to see that flow of moisture increase out of the Pacific and out of the Gulf of Mexico, just like we saw yesterday. So it's sort of a monsoonal type moisture flow that we'll be watching. Notice that we do have the showers already in place here, moving northward from Phoenix into Flagstaff and Prescott, and even as far north as Utah and southern Nevada. We're going to see some scattered showers here, but California is looking good. Washington State, Oregon, and Idaho looking a little bit better than what you saw yesterday. Elsewhere across the east, well, you can see how beautiful things are. We do have some cloud cover starting to reach as far east as Georgia and Alabama, although we don't have a whole lot of precipitation in association with those clouds. It is kind of obscuring some of your sunshine. Still looking good along the coastline here of North Carolina, South Carolina, and on into Virginia Beach. Now, let's see what is going on with temperatures. A little bit warmer today than what we saw yesterday. We've been in such a cool snap with that trough in place here across the east. Well, now things are gradually warming up, and that's going to be the trend as we head into the weekend. We're going to see each day warmer and warmer temperatures. So hopefully you enjoyed that cool snap while you could, because the temperatures are going to be on the upswing. A little cooler, though, behind our front in the northwest. We're talking about 60s in Seattle, 50s in Medford, and 60 degrees right now in Boise, Idaho. Well, by early evening, we're going to see an increase in showers as far north as Boise, Idaho, and Pocatello and Idaho Falls. Take an I-15. It could be a little bit rough for you in the form of scattered showers and maybe even some thunder showers. High pressure will be building in behind our front. High pressure still in control for the eastern half of the country. We're obviously going to be watching the situation in Texas and Louisiana as the heavy rains will be persisting. By tomorrow morning. Well, we have some cool temperatures across the eastern half of the nation that will begin to warm up, and we have some showers and thunder showers across the Intermountain West. We'll get to that in a moment in Storm Watch. First of all, our tropical update. We have the latest on what's happening with Tropical Storm Francis. Here's the info as of 1 p.m. Central Daylight Time. If you're plotting along with us, it is still a tropical storm. We'll have another advisory at 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time in about an hour. But as of 1, 28.4 north, 97.0 west. That centers at about 25 miles south-southwest of Victoria, Texas, so very, very close to the coast. Winds still at 40 miles per hour, and the movement has been nearly stationary throughout the afternoon. We still have tropical storm warnings in effect from Morgan City, Louisiana to Baffin Bay in Texas. So still looking at tropical storm warnings. These may be lifted later on today, according to the National Hurricane Center. Now, we do have coastal flood warnings in effect where you have the darker red shading. Now, notice that we still have, well, it actually looks quite well organized still. as you look at the visible satellite vantage point of Tropical Storm Francis. And we still have an incredible amount of moisture, tropical moisture, moving into Louisiana and Texas. So heavy rainfall has been the biggest threat and tidal flooding, and that is still occurring, unfortunately. It has just been a mess. We've had reports of as much as 10 to 16 inches of rain along the Texas coast. We've had reports of some roadways totally impassable. In fact, I-10 from New Orleans out is pretty much shut down because of the flooding that has taken place. And in some locations near New Orleans, we've had as much as 2 to 3 inches of rain per hour. And the Doppler radar is estimated in New Orleans, you've already picked up 10 inches of rain, could see another 5 or 6. So this is just a nightmare as far as flooding is concerned. Businesses have closed, schools have closed. Folks are urged to stay at home, not get out on the roadways. It's just a very, very dangerous situation. A lot of deaths occur every year in things like this, in flooding. You get caught, you get stranded in flooded roadways, and it's just very, very dangerous, very serious situation. Now, the official forecast for Tropical Storm Francis calls for it to be continuing to weaken. Later on today into tonight, it could become tropical depression status. Since it's over land, it should tend to weaken over time. And eventually, the National Hurricane Center believes that it will start to drift towards the west-northwest. But that's not exactly good news, because it will probably mean heavy rainfall moving into the hill country. And the hills may actually enhance some of the lift, and we may see incredible amounts of rain for you guys starting tonight and into the day tomorrow and into Sunday. Since it's going to be such a slow mover, we may be dealing with a lot of rain and a lot of flooding right on through Sunday and into Monday. Okay, just a terrible situation there with our tropical storm. Elsewhere across the Caribbean, we were watching a tropical wave right in here yesterday. We'll see if in fact it continues to meander and move on northward towards the Gulf of Mexico. Some of the computer models are suggesting that later next week we may see something else start to develop here in the Gulf of Mexico that could affect folks along the Gulf Coast. Not exactly what we want to hear right now, but just want to give you a heads up. Also, we're watching this cluster of showers and thunder showers pretty far to the south right now. And Leeward Island's looking pretty good. Intertropical convergence zone. Head on over towards Africa, and we'll show you a couple of tropical waves moving on off, not really showing a whole lot of development at this time. Tropical depression Javier as of 8 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Winds at 30, moving southeast at 5 miles per hour. Not really that impressive. We're going to continue to watch it. It's not expected to affect land with any significance. All right, current situation elsewhere across the country. High pressure and control for the east looking good. Frontal boundary giving way to some scattered showers in Minnesota. We do see an increase in showers and thunder showers picking up right now in Arizona and Utah and Nevada. So scattered thunderstorms are a distinct possibility here, not to mention right here along the Gulf Coast. And of course, we are watching incredible amounts of rain just piling up out of the Gulf of Mexico right on top of you in Louisiana and Texas. We will have the latest information on Tropical Storm Francis and your forecast into the weekend up next in Weather Center.
Tropical Storm Francis brings heavy rain and flooding to parts of Texas and other areas along the Gulf Coast. An update on the storm next on Weather Center.
Now's the time to discover the great selection of all 1998 Oldsmobile cars and trucks available at Discover Days. Test drive the Intrigue, chosen over Camry and a...
Good afternoon and welcome to Weather Center. I'm Janetta Jones. The rains from Tropical Storm Francis continue to drench many areas of Texas and the Gulf Coast. Flooding is a big problem, and the threat of tornadoes continues to persist. For a complete update on Francis, we turn now to Jill Brown in the Forecast Center.
Okay, thanks, Janetta. Yes, we do have a threat of severe weather, but flooding is probably the biggest concern, as is typical with a landfalling tropical system. We'll keep you up to date on all sides of this tropical system. Let's give you the latest stats right off the bat. And you can see that it does have winds of 40 miles per hour It is centered now about 25 miles south-southwest of Victoria, Texas. The most disturbing thing we've seen today is that it has hardly moved, and according to the Hurricane Center, the latest update, motion nearly stationary. And until we see that change, we'll continue to see problems probably in the same area. And from the satellite picture, you can see the center of circulation around here, not far from where it made landfall about 12 hours ago, a little more than 12 hours ago. Heaviest rain is coming in northeastern Texas and into Louisiana. We have had some very serious flooding problems, and we'll take you right in to show you the problems that do persist around the Houston area. Heavy rains moved into the heart of Texas thanks to Francis. Houston sloshed to a near halt today as torrential rains hit flood-prone areas. Rain clogged freeways and sent bayous over their banks. Houston public schools were closed. The area has received more than 7 inches of rainfall, and unofficially we've had reports of up to about a foot of rainfall. Dr. Steve Lyons, our hurricane expert, now joins me. And Steve, fortunately at this point it looks like they're drier in Houston, but it may be a while to recover from this kind of flooding.
Yeah, a lot of the water that's in those low-lying areas is not going to go out easily. They're going to have to pump it out, so it's going to take a long time.
And we've seen some of those bayous go 10 feet over flood stage, inundating a lot of neighborhoods. We've seen these people walking through these floodwaters, and this is one thing that we've been a little bit concerned about today. That can be dangerous.
Yeah, it sure can. It's sort of sad to see the aftermath of systems like these.
All right, let's take a look at the satellite picture again, and then we'll talk about where the threat of heaviest rain is. Again, Steve, you can really tell that around the Houston area they're actually getting a little bit of sun, which also gives us the thought that maybe that's going to destabilize the atmosphere and give them more thunderstorms.
Yeah, there's still some potential for thunderstorms there. One thing that I've noticed here on the most recent observations, the circulation center's right about there. And there's starting to be some pressure falls just to the north of it here, and it looks like it's starting to move generally in a northward direction, at least temporarily. That's good news, as some of this moisture and precipitation is going to pull off to the north.